Good morning, everybody. This is Mark with Beyond the Struggle. I am here this morning with Marie. Marie, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good. Thank you for having me here, Mark.
Marie, you are in Idaho now?
I'm in Boise right now. Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure I was right. I'm like, yeah. So basically, you were saying well, before we went on, you were talking about that you kind of jump back and forth. Do you have sober living home in California as well?
I have a sober living in Hemet, California, which is Southern California. And I am moving full time with my sister in Boise. Her husband passed away 8 years ago, and she invited me to live with her. And so, yeah, I have a house manager on the boots on the ground in Hemet. And then
Okay.
I own it from afar and help them do meetings with them sometimes and things like that.
Nice. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to touch base with you and let's see if we get your story out there and maybe we can help somebody or save somebody's life. You never know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I am 53 years old right now, and my story with alcoholism and addiction really began. I remember vividly, even to this day, the very first drink I ever took. I was 6 years old, and my dad was in a beer garden. I'm the youngest of seven kids, and we all went through Catholic school. It was a beer garden at the Catholic, all boys Catholic high school, and they had a fiesta, and I walked up to my dad and I asked if I could have a sip. I don't even know why I did that because alcohol was like never even a part of our household, really.
Right.
Very rare. They had a liquor cabinet, but it was like dust on everything. It wasn't something
But
that they did regularly.
but times were different back then though, as
Yeah.
well, you know.
And so I don't know why I asked, but I did. And I remember, they talk about your brain lighting up. I remember the feeling and going, whoa, I want more of that.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that on a regular basis, regularly, like, and it's a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 year old. Like, oh. So anytime I saw anything, I was like, oh, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try that. And I would have to sneak it because my mom would have had a cow if she knew my dad had given me a sip of beer, honestly.
Right.
And then when I was 10 years old, I was molested by a neighbor across the street. He was 18 and he was my brother's friend. He went to all the same schools that we went to. His mom and my mom were very close, and we played a lot as a neighborhood. Like all the kids would play, ditch 'em, which was like team hide and go seek and stuff like that. It was a very close knit space that I grew up in. I was very lucky in that regard, but unfortunately, he violated all of my safety space because he was everywhere, you know, friends with family friend, church, school, everything, neighborhood. And I was in fourth grade and I was 10 when that happened. I don't remember much of the next 2 years. I think that I just kind of checked out and um I didn't talk about it. I was all nervous. There's the whole Catholic guilt and you're a virgin till you're married and all of that. And I think in my head, because I giggled while it was happening, I thought I egged it on. I thought he was there to hang out with me, and I felt cool because he wanted to hang out with me because I was alone. My mom had just gone back to work in my dad's office, and I thought, oh. So I had all those thoughts before it happened, and then it happened, and so I kind of internalized everything like it was me who caused it,
Right.
and that I might even get in trouble for being loose, all of those things. So I think that I internalized it like later it affected me like I was kind of like hypersexualized, thinking that this is who I am. But for the first 2 years, I just kind of blinked out. And then in sixth grade, I started having nightmares, and they were all about that incident. And I started going into a serious depression. Of course, that's also puberty. So, all of that is going on too.
Right.
And my mom was like, you're like, really, you're not coming out of your room, like, what is going on? And so she took me to a therapist, which was very modern for her to do. But the therapist asked me to name who it was. And I didn't feel like I was standing on enough ground of I'm the victim to say who it was.
Right.
I mean, to me, it's very interesting at 11 and a half, 12 years old. I was like, no, I'm going to carry this because I can't be 100% sure that he's at fault.
And you didn't know no better. I
Right.
mean,
Exactly. Exactly. But I did tell my mom who it was. I told my mom I wasn't going to go back and see the therapist because of that reason. And I explained the reason. And I said, but it's this person, Mom. And I think she was secretly or subconsciously glad I wasn't going to push it. I think that she wasn't sure that I was really a victim also. I don't, not to hold that like against her, but I think that she was like, well, if you can't be sure, how can I be sure? You know, like that concept. Now in the day that we live in, I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about this until we're sure, you know, but that was not, you know, this is like 1980. And I'm not making it okay because I'll tell you, I think that a lot of psychology today says it's not the thing that happens to you; it's the fact that you're alone in the thing that is traumatic. It's that you can't do anything about it to stand up for yourself, and that's really what upset me. Was that I felt like I wasn't heard. I was all alone. In my family, there's 7 kids, and the first 6 were born in 9 years, and then 5 years later, there's me. So there was a whole nother like I'm on my
generational gap.
own. Right, exactly. And so I kind of took that on in life. Like I have to figure out a way to deal with me. I'm the only one who's going to take care of me. And that's how I lived until I got sober, truthfully. And so in 6th grade, I started taking alcohol out of my parents' liquor cabinet. And again, literally, I had to wipe the bottles down to like get rid of my fingerprints. That's how dusty it was. But I got my own like mason jar. And it was funny now to me how like serious I took all this. But I got a mason jar, filled it with vodka, put it back up there. The vodka, you know, filled it with water, put it back up. Then I took what I called my smoking jacket because I didn't want to smell like cigarettes when I came home. So there was a little park down at the end of my street, and I would ride my little bike, and then the mason jar of vodka and a pack of cigarettes and my smoking jacket, like in the bushes in this tree. And that what I did for the next year and a half is anything that upset me, I'd be like, I'm gonna go ride my bike, and I'd go down to the park. I'd take this swig of alcohol, I'd puff on a cigarette, put everything back, and be like, okay, Marie, you have to get your shit together and go back. And that pattern basically continued until I was 47 when I got sober. But because I never spoke up as a victim, I also was raped at 18. And again, it could have been like, oh, Marie, you put yourself in that situation because I had been drinking. You know, like, so all of these things were very unclear to me that I was actually someone who was sexually abused in that way.
Absolutely.
And I just took it all on like it was my fault. So I was on a cruise when the rape happened, and I'm very lucky. I was born and raised in Orange County, California. We didn't struggle financially really at all. I went to private schools. I was very, very lucky. My father was a man of integrity, which doesn't happen a lot when people talk about their families. You know, like my parents were married for over 66 years when they finally passed.
All the cliches that people think why these things happen were in your mind are there, or not there, should I say? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
Yeah, like it happens in addiction is such a common denominator. Like it doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter what.
It don't hold nobody's name. You know, it doesn't. We just did a breakout last week about this, and nobody wakes up and says I want to be an alcoholic. Nobody wakes up and
Right.
says I want to be a crackhead. It doesn't work
Yeah.
like that. Um, and I heard lots of situations like this. Of course, the stories are different. A lot of the denomination, the same factors are there, but
Right.
you know, it's I personally don't know, my childhood enough to relate to it because I don't know if I was molested. I don't remember bits
Yeah.
and chunks of my childhood because there was just so much trauma. So I don't
Yeah.
know, but I do know personal relationships with people that have been in that situation, and the big thing is it's hard for them to even speak about. And I congratulate you and commend you on being able to even share that part of your story, at least at minimum. Um,
Thank you.
because there is
It
a
took
lot
a
of people out
long
there.
time.
Yeah, there is a lot of people out there that need to know it's okay to talk about it,
Yeah.
and that they're not going to be looked down on, and that they're worthy of somebody hearing their story and maybe even helping them,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And they're worthy of being able to say, no, that was fucked up. Like
Yeah,
that was wrong, you know?
right.
And I recorded an episode on my podcast about it. It was just me. Normally I have guests, and I was panicked. The little kid in me was panicked
Yeah.
that somehow his family was going to hear it, put the connection together, and come after my mom and dad
Mm.
for me doing that. Like it was still
But
so fresh when I
but
did that.
what's crazy though is you need to do that. Even this episode, every time, I do these, even for myself, I did one with my friend Susanna. I don't know if you've seen her. She runs a podcast as well, and she's a recovering alcoholic as well. And I was on her show last week, and on Mother's Day, as a matter of fact. And me, I wasn't an alcoholic. I never had a serious problem with alcohol. It just wasn't my thing to this day. But my mom was a full-blown alcoholic. I lost my mom to alcoholism, cirrhosis of the liver. So that being said, it's like I I get where these things come from on that aspect. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It it's a fine line. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because
Yeah.
it's a legal drug, so it sucks. All in all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I even in high school set up a system for myself to always have a constant stream of alcohol available to me. I would go to parties, and I had this plastic duffel bag. It's like a vinyl duffel bag, and it was always with me. It was usually folded up tight and in my purse or in my back pocket, folded up tight.
Right.
And then if the cops got called, parents found out about the party, whatever went on, I would stay like an extra 5 to 10 minutes and
Load it
grab
up.
every bottle and put it in there before they came to empty it out. And then I would take that home, and it sat in my closet. At any given moment in high school, I pretty much had that available to me.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
So it was definitely my form of coping from
Right.
from the very beginning of remembering that I'm trying to cope,
Yeah.
And in fact, I eventually married my high school sweetheart at 19, and I
Okay.
remember having to slow down my drinking to even date him. Like
Yeah.
that's how much I was drinking then. He and I were married for 22 years, and I have 2 kids, and I worked and raised kids. Now, alcohol is probably far more a part of our lives than other people's lives. In fact, I'm certain it was because it was always on my mind. I was always thinking about it. He hated that. He was much more of I like to be in control kind of person. Like I don't like what being out of control does to you.
Mm.
So he began doing speed or meth, probably, I don't know, by the time we were 21, 22. And he was a very much more stoic kind of person and didn't talk a lot. So when he was on speed, he talked more. And I liked that. And I also thought to myself, well, if he's going to be doing speed and he won't
Mm.
stop, then I'm going to do it with him.
Oh shit.
Yeah. Because I don't want him up all night with other people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, and if he's going to talk, I want to be there. It was we were so opposite. And being that he was male on top of that, and I'm female, so like I'm more talkative and I'm female, which lends to being more talkative than he's male and very not talkative due to, like his mom was pretty much an alcoholic and talked a lot and controlled things. And I think I just walked right into his trauma in that way. Like I just
Into
became.
his world now.
Yeah, exactly. I just walked right in, and honestly, because I had felt like I was always on the out with my family, because I wasn't their age range, I was always trying to get to be their age range. I think I just was used to not getting a lot from my relationship, so
Right.
it fit perfectly. We were married for 22 years, and other than people who would notice us, partying a lot, we really looked like a normal family. We were not. We both used addiction and alcoholism as our way of coping. So I think, honestly, I think the fact that we were married for 22 years is a testament to how much we loved each other because we just willed it to happen. It wasn't like it was healthy. And I would drink to relax, and I would do meth to be a functional adult. That's how I did those two substances.
Right.
He would do meth to party, and then he was fine being a functional adult during the week. I needed a lot more sleep than he did, so that didn't work for me. So like he'd go through, him and all of our friends would go through an 8 ball on a weekend, and I'm like, siphoning it off so I can handle the next week of work, like
Right. Right.
trying to enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, interestingly enough, I was late diagnosed ADHD. So that makes perfect sense to me now that I was trying to have it on a daily basis to be able to function like a real brain. I'm also on the autistic spectrum, which I didn't know then. People say, well, I don't want to label myself and things like that. I have to say that for me as an adult, the labels allowed me a sense of freedom and a sense of a lens to look at myself through where I wasn't wrong all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Because I felt like I was always wrong and never got it right. And why am I so bad at life? That kind of thing. So anyway, that is how I used my substances. My brain does not stop. I've had to learn coping mechanisms on how to slow my brain down because it's constantly, if you put me in front of an interesting picture, like I'm going to tell you 500 stories that's in that picture. It just,
Right.
it's the way my brain works. And a lot of my friends now love me exactly for who I am and know that. And they help me know when I'm going into hyperdrive like that. But I didn't really have that kind of partnership with my husband. So I just felt like I was always wrong, you know.
Right.
And on my 40th birthday, after 20 plus years of marriage, he asked me for a 6-month separation. And I was like, one, nice timing, dude. Really?
Right.
On my 40th birthday? And I felt like, oh my God, we're getting to the point where we get to have so much fun and the kids are older and like, this is cool, And his thought was, oh my God, I'm getting suffocated. And he wanted out. So again, that tells you how very different we were.
Right.
I took it very personally. I had a very hard time with that separation. And I told him if we're doing that, it's a divorce. So at that point, I was like, you've made enough decisions without me. I feel like you're not really in this anyway. We're out. So the next, oh gosh, that was 40. We said we were divorced by the time I was 41 and a half, and I got sober at 47. So the next 6 years were a run amok.
I was just gonna
Mm,
say. Can
yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
Full
And,
steam ahead.
and I was really guarded from the drug world being married.
Right.
I didn't have to go find it. So now as a single woman, it was a little terrifying. honestly.
Yeah.
For the most part, this is so strange, but for the most part, 2 drug dealers that I mainly had were like good friends of mine, like really good friends, and they were good people, which is not, I just was lucky. But if
Right.
they were not available, because I was addicted, I would go look for it elsewhere. And boy, did I get myself into some crappy situations. Like, I've had sex just to make sure I didn't die that night,
Yeah.
truthfully. And what's interesting about that is, okay, so I didn't do anything wrong as a 10-year-old in 4th grade, but my mind made me think that maybe I participated. I didn't do anything wrong as an 18-year-old who was fed drinks all night and then taken back and used and abused. I didn't do anything wrong on those nights, but because I had that guilt and that shame come with me into adulthood, it led my thinking. It educated my thought to the fact that I am this person. So, you know, I'll just pile on more shame and more stupid decisions because I'm already that person anyway, you know?
Right.
And that was some scary times. In fact, I was so upset about him making the decision to not be my partner in life and not continue the marriage that I literally jumped into a marriage in 2000. So in 2012, on my 40th birthday, we separated. We were divorced by December 2013, and in June of 2017, I married somebody that I had known for less than 8 months at that point.
Didn't want
Because
to be
I,
alone.
huh?
Didn't want to be alone.
I didn't want to not be married. I was like,
Mhm.
that's not my life. That's not my life. I, I mean, I was married at 19, and this is my life because he made it my life, not because I chose it. That was kind of the attitude I had. So I married somebody that was fun and that I thought that I was smarter than, so I could control the situation. That's really, when I look back on it, that's exactly what I did. Stupid, because within 8 months he was cheating on me, and you know, there's all that. And it took me, I found out in May he was cheating on me, and it took me till the end of September to get him kicked out of my house
Right.
legally. So those 4 months, I was living with a man who would spend the day at my house and then leave at night to go see his girlfriend. And that was an all new kind of hell. Um, I also have an autoimmune disorder. And by the time and when I'm stressed out, it flares up and all kinds of things happen. And by the time I got him kicked out of my house, within 24 hours, I went blind and I could not see for almost a full 24 hours because of my body just freaking out. I didn't share this part during the marriage, my first marriage in 2010. So we had been married 18 years at this point. No, 20 years. There we go. 20 years. 19 years. Sorry. I had an emotional breakdown. So I was a corporate staff accountant, and I, in one day, couldn't even add numbers. Like, all of my abilities just left. And I've been on disability ever since then, March 3rd, 2010. I'm smart, I'm intelligent, I just can't be under stress.
Right.
The minute any stress is added, my whole body and mind shuts down. It's like, that's it, done. So I think that happened because I was in counseling and my husband showed up to my counseling session drunk, which is very shocking because he doesn't usually let anyone see his mistakes. You know what I mean? He's kind of like, he doesn't like to look like a fool. And the counselor kicked him out. And then he communicated with her and was like, mea culpa, I'm so sorry, da 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 da. And she let him come back. And he said, the week before March 3rd, 2010, he said, I've never put my whole self into this marriage, and I'm ready to start. And you know how you stretch your rubber band so far that it finally snaps?
Yeah.
That's how it felt inside me. Like I had been carrying the marriage, Then he says that out loud. Oh my God, I'm not crazy.
Mm.
That's what's been happening. And then I went crazy, literally. And my oldest sister is schizophrenic, and she was diagnosed in 1976, 77. And I have late onset schizophrenia because on that day, my brain snapped. So not only was I dealing with drugs and alcohol, but now I have literally a brain that
It only wants to work when it wants to.
exactly. And then also I hear things that aren't there, so I have to manage that too. You know,
Yeah. That
yeah,
and it, they say with meth, they say that that stuff is induced even more for people that have
yeah,
any kind of mental issues, period. You know what I mean?
right,
OCD, all that stuff, ADHD,
yeah,
everything, stuff like that, that stuff definitely shouldn't be mixed into the pot with that stuff.
right, exactly. And I used to see people get all paranoid and stuff like that. That never happened to me when I was on meth.
You got lucky.
Very. But the meth allowed me to keep my stress level to manage a life that was so off the chart stressful
Right.
as I could stay up all night and do everything I needed to do. So it just finally broke me. Yeah.
Nice. That's Yeah, that's I know how that works. Trust me, that was my drug of choice was meth. I was on and off for since I was, I don't know, 15, something like that, all the way up until I was like, I don't know, maybe at least for 10 years, I would say, something like that, off and on. But prison, I got breaks, so I went to prison a couple times. But I just I know what it does. I know this drug stuff is serious. I got
Yeah.
fortunate that I got out. I celebrated 20 years on January 25th of this year.
Awesome.
It's just one of those things you want to get away from. It really is. And
It certainly
again,
doesn't help any of the factors that might already be hanging out there.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How are your kids doing, if you don't mind me asking?
My kids are doing really, really well. My daughter's been married for 9 years and has 2 kids. And my son has a long-term relationship with a wonderful person. My daughter and my son, they distanced themselves from me for a while. And I've had to I just told my daughter actually about a year ago, I said, having you withdraw from me was painful, very,
Right,
very painful. However, I like who I am better now because I couldn't just lean into an automatic relationship with you. I had to figure out how to honor you in the relationship and not just worry about what mattered to me.
right.
And I thanked her for that. And she laughed and she goes, "Well, I'm glad it did some good because it wasn't not painful on this side too, Mom."
Yeah, yep. And that's why I ask about the kids, because it's like, sometimes we forget, and I was just talking about this, you know, a lot of times the children or the husband or the wife or the family, a lot of time is the victim, and we don't even realize it.
Right.
They're going through it with us more than we're going through it with ourselves sometimes. And we forget to mention them sometimes because,
Well,
they're,
that's exactly why I named my podcast My Side of the Street, because I was like, okay, there's things that I want and I can't do anything about the other side. I
right,
can't. I can't have my daughter be someone who says straight up, I don't like this, I don't like that. She just doesn't, that's not how she communicates with me. She communicates with me by ebbing and flowing her attention. And I, if I want a relationship with that person, which I really do, I need to honor how she communicates with me. And so for me, it was like, okay, what can I do? I can work on me. I can continue to be someone who isn't needy for that connection. I love that connection, but I'm not needy for it most of the time. Sometimes I
right.
still get very needy for it, but
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing is I'm just doing the best I can to heal because me not healing is really what damaged them. Me not healing as a human, as a younger person is what brought the damage into my current life, you know?
Nice. Yeah. No, that's at least you're recognizing what the rights and wrongs now in life. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
that comes with the stages I feel in sobriety. Even with 20 years under my belt, there's never a day that doesn't I don't there's something I'm learning about, especially doing
yeah,
the interviews and talking to people and counselors and all this stuff. Is like you learn something new out of everybody and everything. Situations a little
yeah,
bit different, and coping skills are way different with everybody.
yeah.
um, so what I want to do is, real quick, I want to touch base with you, and I will I'll get some information from you when we get out of here about
Okay.
your sober living homes, and I'll put that up in this video. If you have any,
I'll
if you
email it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you have any pictures or anything like that that you would like to share with, you and your kids, or any special moments throughout your sobriety that you would like to for me to put up, I would love to do that. The people to put situations or timestamps with the story is
Right.
phenomenal for people. They love that.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to share the name of your podcast again is,
My side of the street.
and where can it be found at?
Um, uh, everywhere. As Spotify is where I find it personally,
Okay.
but it is on Apple.
Okay. All right. So that way people can come find you and listen to some of your stuff that you got going on.
Yeah.
And again, I will make sure I put up the information about your sober living homes,
Okay.
and that way we can join forces and save some lives. I
Yeah.
really I really appreciate you coming on here this morning, Marie, and I look forward to working with you again on some other stuff, maybe doing some collaboration stuff and some breakout videos with you. It'd be
Okay.
awesome. All right. I congratulate you on your sobriety again, and thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I'm gonna let you go, and I will get with you, and then just message me. And if you have the information about your stuff, I'll
Okay.
get it up and running on here for everybody to see.
Thank you, Mark. And thanks for doing this podcast. I think, any way that people can find solutions and help and commonality in what we're dealing with is really important.
Absolutely, that's what we're here for, at least to save one person if we can.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.